welcome back to another lesson with me, Miss G, and today we're going to be looking at the general ledger for grade 8. Alright, so today what they've done is they've given you amounts already as totals. So if you've done the CRJ like we did in the previous videos, essentially what you're doing is you're taking these totals and the totals of bank, equipment, trading stock, wages, and these individual totals, and you're entering them into the general ledger. But what they've done here is they've just given you the totals and you then need to enter them in. So there's a specific process that I recommend, and the first thing is to enter in your balances. For the start, we're looking at April, 1st of April. And let's have a look. You're using the following information below to complete the general ledger account for April 2022 for Carl's Car Wash. Now what the general ledger does is it's basically working out how much equipment do you have left at the end of the month, how much money do you have left in the bank, how much rent income did you make, and so it's just working out those totals because you know that you receive money and you pay money, so we need to work out what you have at the end. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to enter in our balances. You'll notice over here that we only have two headings, so therefore they're only going to want us to do these two accounts. So wherever you see equipment and bank, they're going to have to go in. Alright, so the first thing is you're going to enter in your balances for the 1st of April. We have a bank heading and we have an equipment heading. Now, if you remember from what I mentioned in my effects of the accounting equation video, if you've watched that, there is something called dead click, which stands for debtors, expenses, assets, and drawings. This is creditors, liabilities, income, and capital. So all it does is it tells me that these four things increase on the debit side, and these four things increase on the credit side. So like an asset, for example, bank. If your asset is increasing, I'm going to write it on the debit side. If your asset is decreasing, I'm going to write it on the credit side. So first have a look at your accounts. We have equipment, which is an asset. So that increases on that side and decreases on that side. Bank is also an asset. So it increases on that side and decreases on that side. So jot that down before you start. So we're entering in balances for the 1st of April under bank. So the first one I'm going to do is bank. And bank is an asset. So I'm going to write it on this side. Now what am I entering in? I'm entering in, looking at my details, I'm entering in my balance for the 1st of April 2022. Sorry, this should say 2022. The amount is 15,000 Rand. Now this column, the folio column, is asking you where did you get that 15,000 Rand from? And if it's a balance, we call it brought down. You're bringing down that amount from the previous month. Because what came before April 31st of March? So on the 31st of March, you had 15,000 Rand in your bank account, or Carl did. He went to bed, woke up the next morning, and on the 1st of April, he would still have that 15,000 Rand. Okay, so it's just being brought down to the next month. Your equipment, which we're going to enter in, is also a balance. So we're going to put that as equipment as a balance brought down of 5,000 for the 1st of April 2022. I've done that one and I've done that one. Trading stock, there's no trading stock heading, so I can't enter that in. I'm going to leave it. So it'll give you a whole lot of amounts and you will just put in what is necessary. The next thing we're looking at is our CRJ, and that's step number 2. You're going to enter in your journal totals. Okay, so my cash receipts journal is all the money I've received. Now you'll see that we only have one account as far as I can see. Yeah, so bank is the only one that we're going to be able to enter in. If I take the 5,000 plus the 4,000 plus the 16,000, you'll see it equals up to 25, because those are the three things they receive money for. So bank, we're not going to call bank, we're going to call it total receipts, because it's the total amount of money that you received. Bank is an asset, and if you're receiving money, it's going to go on the debit side. If we asked you to fill in current income, rent income, and capital as well, these would all go on the opposite side. These would essentially go on the credit side, because remember, in accounting, for every debit there's a credit. So my total debits from the CRJ equals to my total credits on the from the CRJ. All these accounts would be called bank because they affect your bank account. So you would write them on the credit side as bank and the amount. But we don't have to enter these in now because they're only asking for two accounts. So bank from the CRJ, so bank from the CRJ, if you're receiving money, your bank's going up because of your total receipts for the end of April, the 30th of April, from your CRJ3. They're telling me there it's number 3, and the amount is 25,000. If we look at the CPJ side, now your bank from the CPJ can't be called total receipts as well, because you're not receiving money. If I added up the 3,000 and the 5,000 and the 2,000, it would equal up to 10,000. This is the total amount of money I have paid, so it's total payments. This would go on the credit side because your bank is an asset and it's going down. Everything else below that, all your other accounts, would go on the debit side, because this is if you're paying for an equipment, your equipment is going up and it's an asset. If you're paying for electricity and wages, they are expenses and they're going up on the debit side. Okay, so let's enter in the first one. Bank from your CPJ, we call total payments, and it's going to go on the credit side this time. Total payments will always be on this side. CPJ number 3, and the amount is 10,000 for the 30th of April 2022. All right. The next thing that we are looking at is equipment. So there is a section for equipment. Now, just like these, we call all of these accounts bank, and this bank we call total receipts. All of these accounts we're going to call bank because they all affect your bank. When you pay for wages, it affects your bank account. If you pay for electricity, it affects your bank. Buying equipment affects your bank. So if you're paying for equipment, what's happening to your equipment? Your equipment's going up. If I'm going to give someone money for equipment, I want that equipment. So my equipment is increasing on the 30th, and it's affecting my bank CPJ, my apologies, CPJ3, and the amount is 3,000. All right. So just to be careful, how do you know that this is for equipment? Because you're putting it under the equipment heading. So under the equipment heading, your equipment is going up for 3,000 Rand, and it's affecting your bank account. So like I say to my grade 8s, this is called total receipts, and the rest are called bank. This is called total payments, and the rest are called bank. Because all of these things, current income, rent income, and capital, are affecting your bank account because it's from the CRJ. These three things are all affecting your bank account because it's from the CPJ, making payments or receiving money now, and so therefore we call these bank. The last thing you're going to need to do now is to now balance, and you'll see in the balance sheet section you'll need to balance your accounts. So the easiest way to balance is if there are amounts on both sides, then you're going to need to balance the amounts. Or let's just say, for example, we're just going to balance bank. For equipment, what you can do is you can just add up the total, so that would be 8,000. Okay, but if you need to, when you're going to balance, let's say that's the third step. When balancing, you're trying to balance because there are amounts on both sides. So if you're sitting on a seesaw with someone, you want to balance it so that you can both rock backwards and forwards. You can't have, like, for example, I can't sit on a seesaw with my 9-year-old nephew because he'd be sitting up high and I'd be sitting on the ground. So we need to obviously balance it out. So the first thing is to remember the acronym. Teachers should bring cake tomorrow. You wish, but yeah. Teachers should bring cake tomorrow. It stands for total, subtract, balance, carry, and total again. So I'm going to show you what I mean. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to total. We're going to total the biggest side. Is the debit side bigger or the credit side bigger? The debit side is definitely bigger. So if I add 15,000 and 25,000, it is going to give me, I always just skip a line to make some room for myself. It's going to give me 40,000 Rand. Dark line at top, dark line at bottom, if it's a total. So I've totaled. I then subtract. I take my total and I subtract everything on the credit side, and that 40,000 minus 10,000 gives me 30,000. I'm just going to write it just below. Still working on the debit side, so I've subtracted. What I've worked out here now is my balance. So my balance brought down for the following month. So what comes after April? It's May the 1st, 2022. Because I had 15,000, I received 25, or car wash received 25,000, and I paid 10,000. So what am I carrying over to the next month? 30,000 Rand. Once I've done the balance, I carry it across, and it becomes balance. And now because I'm carrying it across, it becomes carried down. And that amount is again 30,000. So I'm writing it twice. So that now when I do the last step, which is total, your totals must be on the same line. 10,000 plus 30,000 gives me 40,000, and my totals balance. And so that is the perfect way to balance. So just remember, teachers should bring cake tomorrow. Total, subtract, balance, carry, total. So I total, subtract the 10,000. It gives me my balance. I carry my balance across, and I total it again to get a balanced account. So just to remember the processes, you first enter in all your balances at the beginning of the month, so the 1st of April. You then enter in all your CRJ totals, and then you enter in all your CPJ totals. Once you've done that, you then balance. If I say to you balance all the accounts, you balance the accounts in the balance sheet section. There is often another section of the general ledger which we call nominal. And this section, we do not balance the nominal section. All we do is we total them up. And if there are any opening amounts, let's say in the nominal, so one of the most common things in the nominal section, let's say for example is current income, is one of the accounts. Okay. If we have a current income total over here of 16,000 Rand, we've got to figure out what side does it go on. Current income is an income. It increases on the credit side, so it's going to go on this side. But we don't call this a balance. If it's in the nominal section, we call it a total brought forward, or actually we accept BD as well. The way that I get my kids to remember it is that you are so phenomenal, so corny I know, you are so phenomenal that you can't total all your best friends. So just remember, in the nominal section, when you're entering in your balances or totals, we don't call it a balance, we call it a total. But if you're entering your balances in the balance sheet section, you can call them balance. So that's the difference. But a lot of the time you work with the balance sheet section, and then the nominal is less complicated. So that is the only complicated part about it, is that you would enter it in as a total. We call it total. Brought forward of, that was 16,000 that I made up over there for the 1st of April, for example. All right. So I hope that helps with the general ledger. Remember, step by step, you have to know dead click to know which side it goes on. You're entering in your opening balances and totals. We're calling it balance if it's in the balance sheet, or we're calling it total if it's in the nominal section. And you're going to date it for the start of the month. You're then going to enter in all your CRJ and CPJs. We're going to date it for the end of the month. And then once you've entered that in, you're going to balance for the next month. So the 1st of May. And we're going to balance if there are amounts on both sides, so that we get a total of 40,000 on the debit and on the credit side. Good luck for your exams. I hope they go well. You've got this.